What's up, Starseeds? It's Sid, and I'm filming this in October. I'm feeling very witchy, so I wanted to finally do a video on really tarot for beginners, okay? So if you already know some stuff and you're just freshening up, that is amazing. I do the same thing, okay? Tarot is it's a practice and an art that you constantly learn new meanings for yourself about. It's something you can always freshen up on, always get better at. So we are just going to get into the basics. I'm very excited to do videos in the future on card meanings, and all of that good stuff, timing and whatnot, but this needed to be the first video on learning tarot because it's just the most important thing to know about it. It's like a beginner's guide, for everyone, whatever level you're at. You can watch this. Don't feel like by me saying a beginner's guide, you're a beginner, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you're very intuitive and it's going to come to you very easily. Yeah. So this is just kind of some reassurance to trust your intuition, and we are going to just get into it from the very beginning. So you decide you want to learn tarot, you need to get a deck, right? Where to get a deck? So I recommend starting off with one deck. Don't go on Amazon and order like 5. Just get one, okay? And I do recommend going to a store, going to some form of witchy shop and looking at the decks, especially for your first one, just to really get a feel of it. Maybe get some crystals or herbs when you're in there, or some candles, whatever you like. But yeah, go to a shop if you can, if there's one near you, and really just look at their card selection and pick out a simple deck, okay? The Rider-Waite, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. If not, Google it and you'll see the pictures. That is really the general deck that most people start off with. But if there is another tarot deck that you are interested in, by all means, go for it. I did not start off with the Rider-Waite deck. That was the second/third deck I got. I started off with one deck that is my Native American tarot deck. It's not pentacles, wands, swords, and cups. It is earth, air, fire, and water. And it has different names for some of the major cards. There is no Empress or Emperor. It is the medicine man, the medicine woman, grandmother, grandfather. So it's definitely a different style deck that I started off with than most people do. And I had this deck alone for 2 to 4 years. I wish I knew exactly when I got it, but I don't. So I just used this deck, this Native American deck, that was more elements. It was just very natural, very Native American-like. And I'm actually not even Native American. I got this deck thinking I was part Native American, and since then I've gotten one of those ancestry DNA tests, and it turns out I'm not at all. But I still love the culture, and I still love the deck. So not ashamed, very happy that I got it, and I do not regret getting that as my first deck. So if you feel called to an Egyptian deck for your first deck, or just really any other tarot deck that you feel called to, you can get that for your first deck. But I do really recommend the Rider-Waite at the same time. Like I said, that was in the second grouping I got of decks. After I had my first deck, I went to a different shop and got my second and third deck years later, and it was a Rider-Waite deck and an Egyptian tarot deck. So yeah, those are the 3 decks I started off with. But like I said, that first one I had just for years, so I know that deck the best still. It's only been, I don't know, maybe 2 years since I've gotten more decks after that. So I've been doing tarot for about 5 or 6 years now, and maybe even 7. But yeah, that is what I started off with. So whatever works for you, you do that, okay? Yeah. Most decks, I would say about 90 to 95% of decks are going to come with a little booklet that have meanings of the cards for you, okay? So you don't have to worry about reading that and learning all the meanings first. Just worry about using your intuition to pick out the deck, of course, like I said, and to pull cards. But before you do that, you are going to want to bless your deck, okay? You're going to want to cleanse it. You don't know where it came from necessarily. Maybe you do, but at the end of the day, can you really trust anyone with that stuff? You don't know what intention was put into it. Hopefully it was positive, but you never know. So you want to use one of these methods, however many of these methods that you want, to really just like cleanse it, get it fresh, get it dedicated to you, because you are going to want to develop a bond with your deck. Whether that means you don't really want anyone else to touch it, that is how I was completely at first and still am to an extent. Like, I don't really like people touching my cards at all. Like, you can look at them, don't touch them, please. But you need to visualize, go card by card, okay? You, especially with your first deck, you just need to do this. Go card by card. You can look at the card, just take a time with like every individual card, okay? Start at the beginning and go to the end. If they're out of order, it doesn't matter. You just look at the card, put your good, loving energy into the card. Put protection around yourself first before you do this. Maybe you can light a candle and just kind of don't get the card too close to the candle. You obviously don't want to catch them on fire, but you can just like run it over the flame, like a good distance over the flame. Keep them separate. Don't burn it, but you know what I mean. Just kind of bless it with the fire. You can smudge it with some sage or a different like herb bundle that you have. Yeah. The main thing though is like visualizing and saying something in your head or saying something out loud to really just bless the cards, bless the deck, okay? And once you've cleansed your new deck, then you can get into using it. Like I said, it is totally fine. You do not have to know any of the card meanings. You can look them up after you do a spread. And I don't really want to tell you a certain spread or certain bridges to do. Obviously, there is like a good beginner past, present, future spread where you just intuitively pull 3 cards. And I guess before I explain that, I'm going to explain shuffling, or explain it as far as saying I don't need to explain it. So obviously there's a ton of ways you can shuffle your cards. Whether or not you are good at shuffling playing cards, it doesn't matter, okay? You can take all the time you need to shuffle. When I first started out, which this is probably my favorite method, to just keep shuffling until it feels right, okay? I don't have a deck with me right now. I don't really have anything to prop my phone up on. I'm just kind of holding it with my hand, so I can't really show you. But, just 2 piles of cards, shuffling them together like most people do for playing cards, that works great. If you don't shuffle well like that, then you can pick them up and hold them kind of more vertically rather than horizontally on a table. You can hold them with your hand and kind of break them up that way, shuffle them that way a bit more manually, if you will. But it's kind of hard to explain, but you will develop a shuffling routine as you go on. You might not ever really have a routine, but my favorite way to get the deck ready to pull cards is to shuffle until you get like a clean sweep where you really see and just, it's more about feeling like in your hands when you're pushing the two piles that you shuffled together, when you're pushing them together and you feel all these cards like intertwine, and it's just like boom, that was a really good shuffle, like this just feels right to start pulling from the top. You can start pulling cards that way and do just pull as many cards as you want, put them in whatever placement you want on the table. If you feel like putting one upright, if you feel like putting one sideways, if you feel like putting this one to the right or left of that one, do it how you feel it. That is how I started. That is how I highly recommend it. That is the most intuitive way you can pull cards. And then, like I said, if you want to shuffle the cards and do that past, present, future spread, if you feel like you only want to pull a few cards, you only want to pull 3, then that first one is going to be kind of like what you came from, what you've already been through. That second one in the middle is going to be like what you're going through right now, maybe like your personality or what you really should be doing in the now moment. And then that one to the right of that one, that third card, is going to be what you're going to step into in your future. If you continue to go down this path, it's going to be, you in the future, what you have to look forward to. So know that the tarot is very brutally honest, okay? It's going to be brutally honest. And you can have intuitive messages that you get about these cards, or that are like kind of connected to these cards as you're laying them down, especially if you're doing one of those just like intuitive bridge draws like I talked about before, that I really liked doing in the beginning when I first started learning, and I still do these today. I feel like they're the most powerful when you just put them down however you feel like it. No really like proper placement to be put, just put them how you feel and you know exactly what it means. You're going to get the most intuitive, clear, cognizant messages doing it that way, in my opinion, without a doubt. And that's like how you're going to have a breakthrough reading. That's how you're going to put down like almost all the cards in the deck, but it's okay because they all have a meaning in your life in that moment, and you know exactly what each part of this huge spread that you have like all across your bedroom floor goes to, You're going to get these intuitive messages, so you might not even have to look in the book to see what it means. You might just get this information and know. But you can always lay them down, look in your little book that your deck probably comes with, and see what each card means. And usually they have like a short definition and then like a long definition with like some good words of wisdom to help you along your path if you pulled this card. Usually they have very long descriptions of what each card means, and it's very helpful to look back at. Or if for some reason you got a deck from like Hot Topic or something, which I've done, and it doesn't come with a little manual, then you can look online, see what that card means, okay? There's a ton of online definitions. There's a ton of videos. I'm going to do a video on this of like what each card means, what each card specifically means to me too, because I've found that some cards have different meaning, or some cards like usually always have to do with timing, or if you're asking a certain question, what the answer is to that question if you pull certain cards. There's just so much to always keep learning about tarot. But yeah, that is pretty much the basics, you guys. Make sure you get a good beginner's deck. Make sure you just start off with one and just develop a bond with this deck. Do it whenever you feel like it. Do it every day if you want, but always be in like a good high vibration when you're doing this. You can't be scared of the deck. You can't be scared of bad cards. If you get the devil card, if you get the death card, this does not mean automatically negative things. If you don't know what cards mean upside down, you can just do them all upright. Um, if you want to know what the cards upside down means, it really just means the opposite of it being upright if it's upside down. If it's sideways, if you intuitively put a card sideways, you are going to intuitively know why you did it or what it means for you. And if you don't, you just need to sit, relax, and ask your guides, ask the spirits, ask God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, why you got that card, what that card means in your life right now. I recommend doing readings for yourself first. It is really good to do readings for other people to develop your intuition more, but then you get into people wanting to touch your cards, then you get into having to kind of just like intuitively cleanse your cards just with your mind, like this reading is for this person now, this question. It just gets a bit more complex when you do that. So for a beginner, I would just start off doing it for you. It's not like a Ouija board. You're not going to get cursed if you do it by yourself. Tarot is really meant to be done by yourself when you're learning, okay? This is not anything satanic. This is just like a tool to use to help you in this life. And if you have good intentions for this, only good things will come to you. So just make sure you set that positive intention. You know, love and light for everyone. It sounds kind of cliche, but if you just feel this in your heart, if you feel this love, if you feel this light, then it's just going to guide you down the right path, and nothing bad is going to happen to you by doing this, okay? Yeah. Oh, I also do want to mention the difference between a tarot deck and an oracle deck. So if you feel drawn to an oracle deck, that is totally fine, but it's just not a tarot deck, really, at all. Okay, there's a big difference. Tarot, there is 78 cards in a deck, unless it's a deck that has like one extra special card for that deck. I do have one deck like that. They might, like I said, like my first deck I got, they worded things a bit different just because it was a Native American deck. If you get say like the Santa Muerte deck, it's going to say Santa Muerte instead of death. They just might have a bit different wording for different things if you get a different deck besides the classic Rider-Waite. But if you feel called to an oracle deck, this is totally different. It's not like there's 78 cards in a deck. There could be. Usually there's 40 or something like that. And they aren't the same like cards. There's no really major or minor arcana. It's just like they were really made to give you more of like easy messages, okay? Like oracle decks, they could have, obviously they're gonna have like a specific like theme to them. Like I have an astrology oracle deck, I have a bunch of different oracle decks, but it's just gonna be like certain types of flowers, certain types of crystals, or it can be like miscellaneous things. Like I have a deck that's actually very useful that says like courthouse or marriage or child or something like that, and it's very straightforward. There's like message or like living room, like just random cards. Oracle decks are like that. They're just like names of cards that are miscellaneous things, or cards, like I said, that are like all crystals or something. And you need, if you get a deck that's an oracle deck with crystals, you should know what crystals are like, what the meanings of all these crystals are, or else you're gonna bark right now, mister. Or else you're just gonna have to learn all of those meanings as you go, which is totally fine if you choose to do that. But if you want to get into tarot, I recommend getting into tarot and then getting into oracle decks later. You know, because those are going to be easier for you to learn. It's going to take you the longest to learn the tarot, and you can totally learn them both at once. But like I said, I recommend developing a bond with that first deck you get first. That's just the way to go. So, I don't want to get this video too long. I just want to say that I love that you guys are getting into this, and I'm totally going to do videos. I think next week I'm going to do the meanings of the major arcana cards. So if you want to get into this now, get yourself a deck and bless that deck and start using it now before I do my next video, right, Koopy? And then in the next video, we can get into the meanings of the first 22 cards in the deck, okay? There is 22 major arcana cards, which is just cards that have, there's less of these cards in the deck because, like I said, there's 78 cards in total. So the other, I'm pregnant, so I can't really math right now. The other 50-some cards are obviously more than the 22 in the major part. So these just have more of significance when you pull them in a reading than the minor ones do. And they're really just like easier messages to understand, especially if you're a beginner. And then the minor arcana cards, obviously once you get more into this, you're going to know what all of them mean over time. You totally might have to freshen up and look back at them. I still do, but after I make a video on the minor arcana, not next week, not the week after that, because that's going to be the November forecast, but the week after that, when I do the minor arcana, then I'm going to know it a lot better. It was like a good learning tool for me, even though I've been doing tarot for years. I'm obviously very young, so I haven't been doing it for 10 years yet, honestly close to it, but, you know, it's an ongoing learning process, and I'm loving it, and I hope you guys love it too. And yeah, I hope you have a very witchy October, and I will be back with those major and minor card meanings soon. So if you're watching this in the Learning Tarot playlist, which I'll probably create, thank you, and have fun with the next video. Love and light, and the hybrid children are coming soon.